Greetings, fellow songwriters and seekers, and welcome back to Muse and Measure. If you haven't done so yet, please take a moment, hit that subscribe button down below. All right, continuing with this issue of vulnerability. Maybe you're totally sick of this issue by now. But there's still much to say about it, and I think it's just a lifelong process that we have to go through, is to learn how to continue to be vulnerable. Sometimes we can be very good about it, but for our own relationships, our connections with other people, the more vulnerable you can be, the better. Now, obviously, that's not always true. And that's what today's video is about protecting yourself and knowing where the fine line between the public and private is, so that you don't do damage by either exposing other people or sharing too much, so that maybe it brings back the hurt, or it's too traumatic. That you can turn, through this alchemy of songwriting, something that's really kind of awful that's going on in your life into something that's great and helps other people, while at the same time helping yourself. But there are certain lines where you don't want to cross, and it's something to be aware of when you are writing. So we're posed with another paradox. I want to be true to my art and expose my true mental state to the world. But how do I do that in an artful way that also protects my life and protects my relationships and protects my privacy? So let's talk about that. Now, when we're addressing this issue of truth, we might say, well, I feel like I have to tell everything that happened in the situation to really be truly honest. Well, if you feel that way, that's totally fine. But there are always things that you're omitting. You might be saying everything that you heard the person say, or everything you said, everything they did, but there's all kinds of other truths in there that are, what was the smell in the room, or what beverage were they drinking, or what brand of cigarettes did they have in their pocket? Hopefully none, because smoke is bad, folks. So we are always selecting truths, and so just because something is true doesn't mean it needs to be shared. So the approach I would take, and maybe you have some ideas about this. If you do, please share in the comments. I'm no expert at this by any means, and it's just something that I've been working with and grappling with, because, as I said in previous videos, I feel strongly that if I'm not slightly embarrassed by what I'm putting out in a song, that I'm just being kind of dishonest. I'm holding back. But I'm not going to spill everything. I'm not going to just recreate an argument that I had with my partner and put it in song lyrics. That might just be boring and just cumbersome for people. And that's not what people really want. I mean, obviously we want reality TV and Jerry Springer and scandalous stuff like that, where, you see people fighting, and some people are really into that. But I don't think that's what we turn to song for. We're not looking for some kind of scandalous thing. I guess there's whole genres of music which are all about that. It's not my favorite. I want to have some kind of transcendental experience. So yes, start me with the trauma of your life, but take me someplace and show me how you healed through that, or show me how the song heals it, the music makes it so that you still see beauty in the world and that you can still go on, that it's not, a futile endeavor, that we should just end it all. So that's why it's important for me. So as far as a writing framework, so you have this private truth, which is one level. And this is kind of the draft stage. So this is where you're just getting it all out, and you don't want this editor and this censor who's going to say, oh, that needs to be redacted, that is private, you're violating somebody's privacy there. Don't worry about that. Just get it all out. Say everything that you want to say in that. And that's really the great catharsis there, that you can get it all out, blow off the steam, and then you'll probably be in a much better state to go, okay, now what? Now what can I do with this raw material? So that's when we get to selective truth, from private truth to selective truth. So this is the release stage. Choose the things that serve the song, not the trauma. So what does that mean? So pick the things that are going to serve telling the story, giving a sensory experience to the listener, moving things along with the story. And then think about what your chorus is pointing to as the truth that you couldn't hold back, the one truth that this song is about. So what details in your lyrics are supporting that, giving the background, the context? And what are the things that are just superfluous and maybe just gossipy or hurtful, or, somebody just saying fuck you or something like that, or, just bickering or name calling, right? You don't need to put that in a song. Unless that's what the song's about. This guy called me a dumb shit. That's the title of my song. That might be a great song. If anybody wants to write that, it's my gift to you. And then the next stage, so we went from private truth, where you can just vent everything, selective truth, where you're choosing the details that are going to go into the song, and then you're going to go to a public truth. Share what you can stand behind emotionally, something you're proud of, something that you're putting your best foot forward, something you wouldn't be ashamed to have your children listen to or your mother listen to, because it doesn't include all the nitty-gritty details which are disgusting or abhorrent, or talk about, really show the pettiness of you or the other person. What do you want to present? What's the truth? Now, you can still tell the truth. You're not lying here, but you're doing it in a crafty way so that you have a point to it. And it's not just venting and recreating this trauma so that somebody else has to go through it too. You want to share your trauma in a way that is transcendental, that allows us to move from the particular into some kind of general state. I know I've railed against that in the past, but that's kind of what we're doing. And so that's what the public truth is about. Something that you're willing to stand by, to say, this is what happened to me. Now, you're not going to divulge everything you ate, or, in a weak moment, I did this gross thing. You're not going to divulge that stuff in public, right? So you wouldn't want to do it in your songs either. So one song that I really feel does a great job of this, where they toe the line between public and private, and it's almost like all these stages that we've been talking about: the public truth, the selective truth, and the private truth. All these things, it's almost like the song explicitly points to them. And this is one of my favorite songs. It's by PJ Harvey, who's one of my absolute favorite artists, and just a brilliant songwriter all around, and just brilliant musician. So she has this song in Stories from the City, Stories from the Sea, called You Said Something. Let me grab my guitar real quick, and I'll just sing a couple lines of it. All right, I'm back. So I want to just perform the song real quick, just a little bit of it, because I think this is a masterful example of towing that line between private and public truth. This is a song about a love affair that PJ Harvey had, supposedly. And in the song, she's describing these moments of intimacy, but you get up to a line where she decides, no, this is intimate for me. This is too intimate, and this is my private life and not my public life. And she doesn't reveal. So I want you to take note of that and just listen to these lyrics and note what she does reveal and what is not revealed. On a rooftop in Brooklyn, at 1 in the morning, watching the lights flash in Manhattan, a sea of fire bridges, the Empire State Building, and you said something that I've never forgotten. Okay. So what does she reveal there? She's just describing in sensory detail what she's seeing. And it's very, very objectivist, not objectionist, objectivist. So really presenting the world through objects and sensations. And then we get to a line where this person that she's with said something that was really, really important. And we're expecting that, okay, this is a mystery song, so this is going to be revealed at the end. She never reveals it. Let's go on to the second verse and note what she does here lyrically. Lean against a railing, describing the colors and the smells of our homeland, acting like lovers. How do we get here to this point of living? I held my breath and you said something. I don't know what it is about that line, I held my breath, but it always chokes me up, because that's sensory detail right there, especially after a string of abstractions, which could be a cardinal sin, but she's kind of backing away and she's describing what they're doing as opposed to just giving you the sensory details, which totally works, because she's talking about the thought processes. And she's like, how did we get to this point of living? She's having this moment where she's kind of, she's stepping out of just the sensory experience she's having. She is conceptualizing in her mind. And then there's this breakthrough moment where she held her breath because this guy, or maybe girl, said something that she's never forgotten. I don't know. I think it's absolutely brilliant. And you never find out what it is. So talk about towing the line. But there's more intimacy in that I held my breath and you said something that I've never forgotten. I'm getting choked up just talking about it right now. It's very intense in the most subtle, beautiful, brilliant way. And that is great art, my friends, is when you can do that. So that maybe, it's the song just keeps on giving. And this is what great artists do. Maybe the first time you hear their work, you just don't quite get it, like, oh yeah, what's the big deal? I don't get it. But it hits you when you're least expecting it. And that song definitely just beats the shit out of me when I've heard it, when I finally got it. Because at first, like I said, oh, come on, you're not going to reveal this? I want the nitty-gritty details. But it would have been so much less special of a song if we said, okay, well, we were hanging around Manhattan and we made out on the promenade overlooking, Manhattan, the New York Harbor. We went home and had sex. And we were together for 2 weeks, blah, 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 or whatever, just some nitty-gritty details about that kind of stuff. It's so much, the mystery there is what builds the tension. It's so brilliant, and in such a subtle way that intimacy and the real specialness, which talks about like the real beauty in life are on those tiny little moments, not in the consummation of love, through a sexual encounter or being together with somebody, getting married to them. Sure, those are special moments too, but it's these little tiny moments where you're just like totally caught off guard, where you have this moment of ecstasy because something is about to happen that totally shatters your whole idea of who you are and what your whole life trajectory was. And I think that song totally captures it. I don't know. Maybe I'm just delusional. I'm just a fanboy and love her music so much. So that's what I'm aiming for, and with subtlety. And that's why I think, when you tell your trauma or you tell your love affair or whatever you're telling about, these intense emotions you're telling about, the subtlety will actually reveal more than being completely explicit about everything. And so you don't have to spill your guts. You can be very, very crafty. And what you're really trying to tease out is those special moments where you just like, you were blown away, and bring people up to that precipice so they can be blown away too. Not with the great reveal, but just in the uncertainty. That's really what the sublime is that moment of like experiencing the limits of your cognitive ability to imagine something beyond what is possible to imagine. And I think she does it with that song. I don't know. All right, well, let's just take a couple of minutes to talk about the risks of being too vulnerable through your music. Well, as you know, there's so many haters and trolls out there. And if you are presenting something that you are just completely vulnerable about, if you get public rejection or people make fun of you or criticize you, and you haven't been like crafty with your song, and it's one thing for people to criticize your craft as a songwriter, your singing, your performance methods. I'm surprised more people haven't done that in my videos. Haven't torn me to shreds. Although the shorts, there's a couple guys that have nitpicked me a little bit. But that's very different than somebody attacking you and making fun of you for a traumatic thing that happened to you or a very intense emotional situation that you were in. It can be like a second trauma. And so don't do that to yourself. Just don't reveal things that you don't feel comfortable being out in the public. For that very reason, you need to protect yourself against, people who maybe wouldn't even say these things if they had to show their face, but it's this whole anonymity that people get to have online that allows people to just be the worst that they possibly can be. And I know I've seen this with lots of people, probably good people who are normally very benevolent forces in the world, but for some reason, because they can be anonymous, they say horrible things. So you don't want to invite people in to, especially strangers, to have an opinion on your soul and your self-worth and your experience and your worth in the world. So just don't let that happen. Don't share things where you're going to be that vulnerable to people that you can't trust. Now, some things that come up, and I've seen this when I've been at like open poetry mics where people have this kind of look of like, holy shit, did I share too much? This total post performance anxiety that comes up like, oh my God, did I actually say all that stuff? Especially if they're talking about other people, because they know that that's going to come back to them and it's going to cause all kinds of trouble in their life. So you can be crafty and, clever with how you tell your truth so that you don't have these issues. I would also suggest that if you're releasing something or you've finished a song that is about something that's very emotionally intense for you, don't put it out right away. Give it some time, at least 24 hours. You don't want to get it out there, and so that while you're still processing and you're still reeling from, either it's something actually really going on in your life in the moment, or you have brought it back up through this process. You don't want this to, have a double impact on you, that all of a sudden you have to have anxiety about that as well. So really you need to work on protecting yourself. So I suggest you go for walks and just get some distance from it. Disconnect for 24 hours. Don't look at what people say about what you shared, especially if you gave a public performance or you did a live stream. Leave that all behind for a while. Maybe they said wonderful things about what you did, but don't make yourself vulnerable to the possibility of people judging and you feeling that judgmental stare and that scrutiny about something that is so personal to you. So give it some time. Art making can trigger old wounds, and so it's really, really important to take care of yourself and have self-care. Do some meditation, do some journaling, whatever works for you that is going to help you heal from the process. So one artist that I really admire that went through some very traumatic events and very sad things in his recent life was Nick Cave. And if you listen to how he has processed that and gone through it in such a skillful and benevolent way and a really healing way, and keeping those boundaries pretty well defined between public and private, still addressing it, but also protecting himself and protecting his family. Really, really important to do. I mean, and it's not easy being an artist for that reason, because you are called upon to share these truths and to really bare yourself and to be naked to the world and expose yourself. But you can still have plenty of craft. And the people who are the great ones, the people that you admire, if you look at how they've dealt with it, very few of them are spilling the beans on every single thing, spilling their guts out. They have this line and they're very crafty. So there's there's plenty of examples of people who have done that where they just make something that's bad too. And just because you are telling the truth about an emotional trauma you're going through does not make it great art, does not make it great songwriting. So there's no equation there. The great songwriting comes in when you are taking something that was very, very intense for you, using that to build strong imagery, to connect you with an emotional core so you're actually really feeling it. And then learning how to present it in a way that other people feel a similar thing, but with this kind of objective, transcendent mindset. All right. Well, I hope that was useful. It's something that's really, really important. I want you all to take care of yourselves and to not be too vulnerable, but use your vulnerable moments as these great outpourings of emotion. And there is a gift in there. There's a silver lining in there that we can really turn the worst of our feelings, the worst of our sufferings, into something that can not only be a benefit to us, but to all the people as well. So best of luck with that. And please, if you have any questions or want to share your experiences around this, please put it down in the comments. All right. Thank you for listening, and I will see you next time.